I have a 10-month-old daughter who I absolutely adore. I was pregnant during my PGY3 year, and I was completely supported during my pregnancy. I did give birth during my research year, and again, I was completely supported during that time too. Being a pregnant operating resident was so much easier than I expected it to be. And again, all my attendings and co-residents were really supportive. If, I needed to leave the operating room to have a drink of water or go to the bathroom, because that happens a lot for pregnant women. Um, but I felt completely supported throughout my pregnancy. And afterwards, when I gave birth, I had so many of my peers and my attendings giving me gifts to spoil my child. It's been really nice. I have a future Michigan surgery onesie from the department. I have a future Michigan CHOP fellow onesie from the department. So everyone really has spoiled my little one, which has been great. I just want to touch a little bit on lactation because it's important for pregnant women to think about. But again, we're so supported in that department as well. The surgery department has a dedicated lactation room for surgery residents that is near the operating room, which is super fantastic to run to in between cases. And also during your ADT time, or your research time, we call it ADT, or academic development time, there's plenty of opportunities and space for you to do lactation as well, and pump. And our program has kind of nationally regarded guidelines that were created here by two chiefs that had just graduated about lactation for residents. And it's been really a nice support for that. But just to touch more on how Ann Arbor is for family life, I think it's fantastic. I actually went to undergrad here. So before I came to residency, I was so used to this being my college town that is totally contrasted from the town that I live in now. And it's super family friendly. We go everywhere with our daughter, even during this COVID craziness. We take huge advantage of the Ann Arbor parks. There are so many. I think there's over 80 in Ann Arbor city limits. There are tons of swing sets, tons of play areas, great big open spaces that we love to go to. Things like the Ann Arbor Hands-On Museum is a children's museum that I know a lot of people with kids love to go to, so their kids can explore. The Big House in the summer usually puts on movies where they'll throw like Disney movies on the big screen, and everyone goes in their sleeping bags, and it's a lot of fun. There's Domino's Farm. So Domino's, the pizza company, has their headquarters here. And they have a petting zoo at their location here in Ann Arbor. So the kids love to do that. Really close by are the Detroit and Toledo zoos that are 45 minutes each. So you've got plenty of animals to touch and look at very close near us. In the summertime, the Huron River runs through Ann Arbor, and we love to go tubing, kayaking, canoeing. The kids love to splash in the water, in the beaches. It's a lot of fun. The public libraries here are fantastic. They have tons of story times. Right now they're doing them virtually, but it's fun for the kids. They have music classes. They have language classes for kids, which is amazing to me what little kids can say in Spanish that I can't. There are things like the botanical gardens you can take advantage of. My daughter loves to look at the flowers, and there's lots of teaching opportunities there about birds and things. And then I know people have touched on it before, but Michigan sports, the football team especially, is huge here. But there's also other sports that we like to take our daughter to. So things like gymnastics, basketball, soccer, literally any sport you can go to. A lot of the sports that are not kind of the big money makers, you can actually get free tickets to, and that's really fun for the kids to look at professional athletes and look up to them. And then I just wanted to put in a plug for Detroit. I know it's not, the number one big city in the United States, but it's actually a city that's really picked up in the last, I'd say 5 to 10 years. And there's so much to do there. There's something called Belle Isle, which is a nice little island in the river there between Canada and Michigan. There's beaches there, and there's an aquarium there, and that's a lot of fun. There's an art museum that's fantastic. And really, Detroit has starting to have some big open green spaces for kids to play in too. So we really love to go explore there as well. But I'll pass it on to Brian because he has 2 sons of his own, and he has a similar perspective about love in Ann Arbor, but I want to give him time too.
As Sam mentioned, I have two kids, a 2-year-old boy and a 4-year-old boy. And I have a spouse who works full time. My 4-year-old boy was born 2 weeks into residency. So that for me was a little bit of a shocker. So I was very interested in finding a place that would be welcoming to families, because I knew coming in that we were going to have a family. The support that I got from my chief and my whole team, really week 2 of residency, just for me sort of demonstrated the culture of this place, particularly with regard to families. So it was, I received a phone call from my wife just as we were getting out of critical care summer school. And she said, "Hey, just saw the OB, 39 weeks, we're gonna go get induced today because I've got high blood pressure," which I'm sure she'll be delighted I'm telling you all. But she, so she was on her way in. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a new intern. What do I do? Like, I've got cases the rest of the day. And so I texted my chief and he said, "Go be with your wife, we'll cover it." And he goes, "No, it's okay." I said, "No, it's okay, I'll just go. I'll check in on her, make sure she's okay, and get back for the case." And he said, "No, I don't want to hear from you until after your baby's born." And so that was, for me, just demonstrated, and I think that has continued to play out, the culture and the support that people who have new babies, who have existing babies, how strong that, how important people realize that is to all of us who have families. One of the things also that's really, that I've appreciated about this place is that even though surgery residency for everyone is hard, every surgery residency everywhere has early mornings. You're going to have some late nights, long days. There's a real strong culture here at Michigan to get people out of the hospital. So if you don't need to be in the hospital, we want you at home, spending time with your families, with your dogs, with your own personal habits, whatever it is you have, whatever it is you want to do out of the hospital. We all feel that that's a really strong component to support for every individual person. And that for me has helped me see my kids a lot more than I think I very easily could have at other places where I think maybe there's less of that focus. So that's really permeated chief class after chief class, where they say, "Your cases are done, go home, go see your family." Another really nice thing that I've noticed is that we do have a lot of residents with families here, both residents with spouses, significant others, and residents with kids. And what that translates to is a really strong social life that centers around that. So it's a little, obviously COVID has changed a lot of things, but prior to that, really there were so many social events that were at kid-friendly hours, from afternoon barbecues where you brought your kids to daytime hangout sessions at the park. And oftentimes this would transition to later night things for those after the kids went to bed. But there were at least an acknowledgement that those of us who have kids might get stuck at home if all these things all the social life starts at 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m. And that's really been great to get to know, particularly for my wife, who is not from Michigan and really was as she's from Puerto Rico and was a little nervous about getting to know people in Ann Arbor, where she didn't previously know anyone. And that social life has really transitioned or grown, not from just a social life for me, but also a social life for her, a social life for my kids, who now have best friends who are co-resident siblings or co-resident children. So that just makes, I think, strengthens that real family atmosphere. And one last thing that I think we should mention is that even though Ann Arbor seems like it's totally in the middle of nowhere, a small little town in the middle of Michigan, I lived in New York for 7 years before, partly for med school and partly for work. And I'm actually closer to an airport here, a major international airport here, than I ever was to any of the 3 New York airports, living in the center of Manhattan for 7 years. So that really has made it's much easier for us to get places to visit our friends. For my wife's family, particularly from Puerto Rico, to easily get here on a direct flight. So I think that's an underappreciated factor that for those coming from out of town, I think is a really important thing to consider.